It's Sunday. It's warm. Just got out of church. It's warm. Did I mention it's warm? Hope I can do this. I'm hoping this will be actually kind of a short video. We'll see. This is Shatona after all. But I had mentioned I wanted to do something about Kickstarter and, you know, the kinds of things that I've done with Kickstarter. And yes, this is totally related to books because as you'll see, books and Kickstarter go really well together. And there's just a few things I want to chat at. So Kickstarter, what it is, it's a way that it's crowdfunding. It's a way that people can kind of invest in something that they want anyway. And they don't have to, the person producing it doesn't have to put all the money out themselves for something they don't even know if people really want. They just assume people would want, or people say they want, but kind of put your money where your mouth is sort of thing. So that's the gist of Kickstarter. I found out about Kickstarter from number 3 daughter. She found, okay, those bunch of balloons things, you can get them at Walmart. You can get them at the grocery store in our town. But, you know, you're like, not blow up, but fill up 100 water balloons all at once. And it's just like this super easy thing. It was invented by a dad who had a bunch of kids and didn't want to have to fill up 1,000,001 balloons for a water balloon fight for his kids. So he came up with a way that it just does it all at once for you. You just stick it under there and you do it. And we had no idea if these things would work. But I was like, you know what? I can get behind that. I can get behind that. So I did that Kickstarter. That was the very first one I did. And we got our balloons. And guess what? Now they're everywhere in stores. So it was clearly something that people did want. And it wasn't just me. But the next thing I saw and backed was this. This is Becca. It is the Bible, American Standard Version. But what the guy wanted was a Bible that read like a book. You know how some Bibles don't separate stuff into verses or whatever. They just have chapters, and I get that, and he did too, but he wanted something that just, it had the feel of a book, it had just the reading experience of a book, because he really felt like people should read the Bible frequently and like a book, as well as study it. And so this one took a long time. I think I backed it in 2016, and I don't think I got it until like 2018, because they really went all out. So this, one of the things he did in this one is he didn't even justify it, because it is, I like justified margins, I do, but it is an easier page read to read without margins. So they didn't even do justification on the right. They just let it flow. But what kept happening is we kept getting the notices. So you back it, and if it isn't funded, if a Kickstarter isn't funded, and I'm just going to stop right here. I'm not doing a Kickstarter. That's not what this is about. Okay. If a Kickstarter isn't fully funded, then they don't charge you anything. Nothing happens. I've had, I think, one or two that didn't make it. And one of them was something with Pilgrim's Progress that looked really cool. It was so sad. But the idea was, he had this. He's going to use the American Standard because it's public domain. He was going to do the justification. Well, when he went over to Germany to have it printed and bound, and he found a really great company over there who were completely behind it. But he kept upgrading the quality of things. He kept saying, oh, we're going to do this, and oh, we're going to do that. And so he would be like, I didn't know this was a possibility until I got into this. And so, yeah, it's not going to be there by Christmas. He was like, the war's going to be over by Christmas. Well, it kept feeling like the books are going to be done by Christmas. Well, they weren't. They were late, and a lot of people were upset. I wasn't. But I understood why people were. Now, I think I bought 2 full sets. Or was it 3? I bought 3 full sets. And I gave one to my son-in-law. And I gave one away. I had to give away. And then I have mine. You could buy a walnut slipcase for them. Like, this is just heavy-duty chipboard. You could buy a walnut one, but I had this idea, and have I done it? No. Have I read them? Yes. I haven't. I don't think I've read all of them. I don't think I've read that last one, for one thing. But my idea was I wanted to read this so much. It's got really floppy paper. It's a really nice book to hold in your hand, but I wanted to read it so much that I wore out the slipcase. I wanted them to just be trashed by the time I died. That was the goal, and I love them so much, and they're so pretty that I tend not to do that, and I need to change that because that was the purpose of buying them. So, you know, but yeah, so Kickstarter number 2. That's it. I want to say it's a tomb, but it's not, because it's like 5 of them. But yeah, he broke them into, you know, the books of Moses, the Law and the Prophets. I mean, not the Law and the Prophets, the prophets, the poetry, and then the New Testament. So there's that. Now I have to get into here because I wanted to do this in order. You know, there's only been one. It was called Heaven's Quest. It was a Pilgrim's Progress movie, and it looked like it was going to be really good, but it didn't happen. All right. The next 3 things I did were planning sort of things. There was an actual planner that I didn't intend to use. It was a Christian planner in that it was encouraging and it included prayer life and stuff. And I got it basically as a giveaway. I wanted to support the project, but I wasn't interested in it. But I could see that some people would be, so I did it. And I did. I gave it away. It cost me 31 bucks. And when you consider I spend 60 to 70 on my planners, that was a pretty good deal. And then there was a digital planner thing that I wanted to try, but I didn't think I'd like. I didn't, but that was okay. And then it was Story Clock. It was a notebook designed for screenwriters, and I just wanted to see about it, whatever. And I got a set. It was a 3-pack, and I got one for me and gave one to a couple of friends. All right, no big deal. Next up, hadn't done anything for a while, but the next thing that came up it was called The Black Tiger. It was a graphic novel, and it was, I had someone say, can you come talk to these people? Their Kickstarter needs more eyeballs, and they need to know how to get this in front of the people that are interested in doing it. So we all sat down and we brainstormed ways. And the more I listened to what they wanted to do with this graphic novel, they wanted something that was really appealing to general market, but didn't have the level of sensuality that a lot of these types of novels do. I mean, this is like an action ninja kind of thing. And I was totally behind that idea. So I backed it high. It was so close to reaching its goal to be able to do this thing that I went ahead and I gave it a high back at the last minute to make sure that they made it, because I really wanted it. When it came, was I interested? No, I'm not a big graphic novel person to begin with. And then as I was flipping through it, I was looking and I'm like, okay, yes, this isn't as sensual, and as drawings of women's bodies weren't as provocative as a lot I've seen, but it was more than was my comfort level. So I gave it away. I was like, okay, still not, you know, they're Christian people. I loved supporting them. I'm not sorry I did it, but I would have supported them without the reward if I had chosen to do it anyway. I probably, trying to think, based on it, I probably wouldn't have done it. All right, then I did this one. It is Shades of Black by Jonathan Sugar. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I love the website. It's creativegrumbles.com. I think that's adorable. Only one given to the dark knows that there are no gray areas between good and evil. Only shades of black. As the last of mankind's strength drains away, a hero is born in the darkness. And it is signed. So I chose it because this is supposed to be Christian fantasy. It's a trilogy. This is book 1. There are at least, but you know, I really felt like there should be more of these, in the Christian market, but also, well, I gotta say, that to me looks like a spider. Not real happy about the spider on the cover. I'm not afraid of spiders, which is really weird, but there is something about spiders on a cover. I don't know why, but they creep me out more than the real deal. It's probably Aragog. Let's blame Aragog. Okay, but anyway, so I backed this. I do plan to read it. I have not yet. I backed it when I was in the middle of a whole bunch of reading, and just when it finally came in, I just couldn't get to it. So I do want to read it. Maybe I'll consider that for May. I'll think about that. That could be cool. But then that was that one. And again, I backed it primarily because I think there needs to be more books like that in the Christian market, but secondarily because it intrigued me. I wanted to read it. Then I did Maylie and the Maze, and I sent these to my daughter, so I don't have them. So they're by M.L. Tarpley, who also writes as Morgan L. Tarpley, but these are middle grade. And again, I'm all for getting as many Christian middle grade books out there as possible. This is about a young girl who travels around with her aunt and all the adventures she has. And Morgan wrote it that way because she has been to lots of places and wanted kids to have a good story that they could relate to, and not be full of all the things that we don't want our kids reading, and B, so that they could experience some of these places that she's been to that other people may not have. Okay, so I think she may have been, there may be one for Sky too. I need to look that up. I can't remember. So anyway, I backed it. I sent them to my grandkids. So there's that. Should have brought them out here. I haven't sent them to my friend yet. I ordered Becca Symes, the author stuck list cards. I wanted to see what they were. They're really cool. I really like them. Never going to use them, but my friend Kathy will. So I was supposed to send them to her last April, and it looks like I'll just be taking, last July, and it looks like I'll just be taking them to her in June, because at this point, why not? But I backed them because I wanted to support the idea. I could see how they would be helpful and beneficial to people, and it was a way to give my support. And I knew if I didn't use them, didn't think I would, that I had people who would enjoy them. But this is when I kind of went a little crazy with books. This shocks no one. Next up was, so this is author Emily Haney, who did the Come What May suspense series. She was in that last year. Well, she also has an author named E.A. Hendricks. She's got a great Instagram account, and she did this whole, here's all the stuff that came with it. She did this whole campaign last year for her YA Space Circus series. So this one, I went and did a little bit more with what I had chosen. There are two covers. I got both covers. And then it also, the book is stunningly beautiful. But I mean, come on, A Circus in Space, I totally want to read this book. I mean, it's stunning. The inside is just, the whole thing is just beautiful. And I love it. And, you know, the whole 9 yards. It is a special edition, which often happens with Kickstarter. You can often get, if it's really important to you, you can often get special editions. And often, if they, like, so let's say they want to earn $1,000 to produce their book. Let me tell you something. If someone's doing a $1,000 Kickstarter to produce their book, they're just trying to pay for one element of it so that they don't have to literally cover every drop, okay? But if they reach, let's say 2,000, they call it a stretch goal, and maybe they'll add bookmarks or a discussion questions at the back or whatever. Well, you go along, and then you may end up with other parts of your stretch goal, which I love this WPA style art that they did. And then this one does nothing for me. But, you know, but I mean, look at this. These are cool. It's little places to make you see where they're going. Sticker. Bookmark. you know. So they do tend to have stuff like that. And like with one of them, one of the stretch goals was an audiobook. If you reach this part, if we get to this much money, we'll do the audiobook. I was all for that. And so I definitely backed at that level because, yes. Especially, that was a middle grade we'll get to in a minute, but especially for that because it's a good thing. But yeah, so you can get things on Kickstarter that you can't always get once the book is live, because books like this are expensive to make and people won't buy them as a general rule. But if they're using it to fund the whole thing, it works. So I did that one. So then I got my podcast, Because Fiction. I had a gal sign up to talk to me about her book. It was a middle grade Christian fiction story. I was all for it. And as we were talking, she told me that she was just about to start her Kickstarter like the next week or 2 weeks. It was very soon. The dogs are in, so that now they want water. But there's some over there. Go over there. That's the clean water. They want the plant water. So what's wrong with them? But anyway, and so I did some shuffling so that she could have the next slot, since her Kickstarter was starting. Let's encourage this. And that was Toothless Drinking. That was Becca Wierwille and Road Trip Rescue. I gotta see something. Yes. And this is the one. I will put a link to it. I don't know if you can see it anymore. Oh yes, I can do it. I'll put the new one in. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this is the one that Becca had the best explanation for why an author does a Kickstarter. See, years ago, Andrew Peterson did a Kickstarter. I don't know if he was creating a new edition of the Wing Feather Saga or if it was for the show. I don't remember why, but he came out with a Kickstarter and most people were really excited about it. But I remember one gal in particular who was done with him because he's just trying to get other people to pay his bills for him. And I was like, that's not how that works. But I didn't know how to articulate it at the time, why you want the Kickstarter. Number one, it's a great way to gauge interest. You know, if you're going to put all this money into something, you're going to spend $20,000 to produce, you know, a whole series and all the stuff that goes with it, and then nobody wants it. You've just thrown, it's not good stewardship. But if you do this Kickstarter and you get $40,000 worth of pledges, then you know that there is an interest. And the same would go for like the show. You know, it's probably going to cost, let's say it's going to cost $100,000 to do the first little bit of the show, the pilot or whatever. Well, if you've got people who are pledging to support that and you come up with all the money to do it, then you know there's an interest, right? So, listening to Becca's Why Kickstarter is great. It does make you understand why Kickstarter is so great. So when we were talking, I got the idea to open this book with my character finding out about this book on Kickstarter. And Becca said I could do it. And the reason she goes for it, it's almost, I don't say it in the book, but I figure most readers are going to figure it out. It's like almost like a sign, you know, that the dogs are howling. Okay, guys, that's enough. I think we're good. So, you know, she had just seen a little boy with a dog and an ice cream cone, and that's how this book opens up. And so I was talking to her about it, and that's how I started opening my book. And what I didn't realize that I was going to end up doing is finding something in here that fit so perfectly, a great little bit about forgiveness that fit so perfectly to wrap up this book, which I thought was really cool. So I backed it. I wanted the hardback. I actually got the special edition hardback for myself. And the reason it's a special edition is there is a foiled dog and it's got the foiled spine. what I really wanted was a hardback, and I wanted to support her, and I wanted to kind of have something special because I was connecting it to mine. Okay. Otherwise, I might have just gotten a regular old hardback and been fine with it. I also bought a case of 10 books, and I gave them away as prizes and everything. I backed this one heavily because of me connecting it to Clock Tower Bound. That's why I did it. And this is a really, really fun story. Really like this story. And it's one of those things where sometimes you get behind the idea of something that someone is doing and you're really excited about it, and then when you open it up and you start reading, it's not as exciting as it sounded when you talked about it. You're like, oh yeah, this is okay. This was not one of those. So that was the next one I did. And then very recently, it's the fastest Kickstarter I've ever done. It was Power Book number 3. This book was already in process to be printed when the Kickstarter started. I talked to the author again, Amanda Trumpauer, and I bought. So this is the third. The first Kickstarter she did was for the third book in the series. She had already sold many, many, many copies of the first 2 books, which tells me that there is an interest in them. So I took a chance because I gotta say, can I just say, superpowered dogs that kind of make you think of Clark Kent, but not, wouldn't necessarily be this first thing that would jump out on my that's interesting radar. But thinking about my grandsons and, even my granddaughter, I was like, I can get it. Well, then she also has these little mysteries color cases with cats. And so I bought the big package, the one that just had one of all the books. I was like, okay, I can do this. And I wanted to, again, support her. At a time when I do something like this, it costs me just a little bit more than if I bought them on Amazon. And it gets shipped to me, and I get them early, and all is good. But the point isn't, again, to get a deal. The point is to support. And so I don't mind paying just a little bit more on a Kickstarter if I get something special, like this one or this one. But it's also, I don't mind paying a little bit more if I want to support the idea, and more Christian fiction for middle grade readers. This is younger middle grade. Road Trip Rescue is older middle grade. Yeah, because yeah. So have I read them yet? No. Is it going to take me any time at all to read this? No, it's not. But I think it's going to be fun, and that's the key. So yeah, I have all of these to read because Kickstarter. Kickstarter is if I had a book budget, Kickstarter could kill it, but that's okay because you know what? So I'll link again the Trumpauer's interview there. And then the last one that is done and but I don't have yet. Okay, so the Kickstarter has ended as of today, Sunday, April 21st. It's number 1 daughter's birthday. Happy birthday, Shalise. But I don't have it yet. It's Once Upon an Apple. It's a cozy fantasy romance. We all know Shatona, romance isn't her number 1 thing. But it's kind of a Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs retelling. But notice the word cozy and fantasy. I'm like, what are you going to do with this? So it's this gal, it's like cottagecore vibes, and it's like this gal, and the dwarfs are actually goats. I had to find out about this. I just had to. And someone, I think she's one of my readers, don't quote me on that, but someone had backed it and was all excited about it. So I'm like, I went and looked. Snow White fairy tale retelling with 7 goats, small town found family, and no spice romance. So I did but see, one of the stretch goals was a map. I don't know if that's even showing. I'm just going to move this around because I don't know. And yeah, I don't feel like I can take a screenshot and share it because this was part of Kickstarter and I don't have permission for that. But I'm excited. I'm trying to remember when they were This one made a Kickstarter project we love, which is really hard to do. I'm just going to throw that out there. No, on this one, I did the paperback and the digital. I didn't get the hardback, which I kind of wish I had now that I think about it, but it was a romance. And I'm like, Urgh. So I spent $25 on it. It wasn't a whole lot, but I'm like, I'm okay with that. But then I'll throw it up here. The next book in this series, it's called Falling Through the Black, YA science fiction fantasy novel, or science fantasy novel, same spell. But the second book is up. It's up right now. You have until the 26th, so you can get the second book on Kickstarter even still right now. But I got the signed limited edition because I wanted it to be like that one, because I figured you want to do the same, right? And I want to support the author. Again, I want to support the author. So if YA science fantasy is your thing, the first book is available, and if you read fast, you can read it before the 26th and see if you even wanted to back it. But, and guys, I'm sharing this because I'm into this, and I like this, and it's a book thing. I am not trying to talk anybody into buying anything. But if this is your jam, here's some toast to put it on. That makes no sense, but I'm okay with that. And then the last one that I have just backed is Road Trip Return. Again, I will put it up somewhere here. And this is book 2 in this series. And in this one, so like, how this one has the dog on the cover because she's trying to go find her dog. Well, in this one, there'll be an airplane there, I think, because Road Trip Return, they actually end up going, is it Guatemala? I'm right. It's Guatemala. Ha, I remembered. So Becca Wierwille has been to Guatemala quite a bit, so she decided to put that experience in her book. So I backed it again because, yes. And she says it's a faith-filled international adventures for kids ages 8 to 12 about facing the past to embrace the future. And this is the synopsis. Daniel likes his life the way it is. Simple, predictable, and most importantly, just him and his older brother, Mateo. But as Mateo's wedding approaches, life is already changing, and Daniel worries Mateo's fiancée, Skylar, will ruin everything. When Skylar disappears a week before the ceremony, Daniel's concerns are confirmed. Skylar is trouble. The wedding must be stopped. Drawing on his 12 years of wisdom, Daniel vows to save his family from disaster, even if that means traveling to Guatemala, the home of his father, and the last place he ever wanted to visit. Daniel must sabotage the search for Skylar before Mateo makes the biggest mistake of his life. And in this one, there should be a video on why Kickstarter, and if she did it as well as, or reused the video from Road Trip Rescue, then it will be really clear as to why Kickstarters are so cool. So yeah, I totally backed it because there isn't the connection to my next book. I did not get the case and the whole 9 yards, but I did get another special edition because I wanted to match this. But some of these authors, people don't know anything about. Most people didn't know Becca Wierwille before she did it. E.J. Hendricks. No, E.A., not E. I keep calling her E.J. E.A. Hendricks. A lot of people didn't know who she was because it's a pen name. She writes romantic suspense usually, or romance, but this was something different. So she, created a pseudonym so that it would differentiate, and people who want YA science fantasy aren't looking at her, contemporary romantic suspense going, wait, I don't want that, and then getting mad at her for writing something other than what they expected. She uses a pseudonym. It's smart. But big names like Andrew Peterson and Wingfeather Saga, they use Kickstarter. I did not back this, but I almost did. Brandon Sanderson, this book was originally a Kickstarter. It was one of his secret projects. And it's a beautiful book. Can I just say it is beautiful? But from what I understand, the Kickstarter version was even more incredible. But I think it's a beautiful and legitimate way to A, support authors, B, get cool books, and C, get your book in front of the eyeballs that are looking for your book if you are that author. So, yeah, those are my Kickstarter books. Of them, I'm trying to think. What my favorite is probably the Bibliotheca Bible set. Yeah, probably. But other than that, I have to say the one that I was the most excited to open and look at was this one, because I don't know if I knew or if I didn't remember that there were two book covers. The dust jackets are just stunning, and it's just such a beautiful project. But this was probably my second most excited. But then right next to it, right behind it would definitely be this one, because I was writing about this book in my book because I have issues. So anyway, have you ever done Kickstarter? Do you know of any I need to know about? They will send me, oh, well, you liked this, so you might like this other thing because it's a book. And it's like, no. I've looked at several Kickstarters and not a fan. But when you follow, that's another reason to back one. So when you back one, you can find other Kickstarters backed by people that you backed, so there's a stronger chance it's going to be something you're interested in. So Amanda Trumpower, I got a notification that she backed book 2 from this one. And so if I hadn't already known about this series, then I would have found out about it from her. And the same is true of something, I think she backed one. I can't remember what it was. And I went and looked, and it wasn't like it was something offensive. It just wasn't for me, but I wouldn't have found out about that book. And I have recommended it to someone who was looking for that kind of book. So it's kind of like, it's enabling for book lovers. So anyway, I had to share while I could, because Road Trip Return is still on Kickstarter until May 2nd. And so is, until the 26th, so is the E.A. Hendricks, Falling Through the Black, or something like that. Falling Through the Black. I did it. I got it right. So those are actually still available, and I would love it if you ever run across a Kickstarter book that you think I would be interested in. I would love to know about it, because I like to support authors, and I like to support projects like this. And of course, I like books, and then I get to read a good book. So there's always that, right? So anyway, I'll be back Thursday with, I'm not sure what. I want to say all these books so that I can get them off of here, but I feel like I just did a book haul, and now I have more, and I can't hold them. It's too heavy. I don't have my Melee books, and I don't have the Black Tiger Legacy thing anymore. But I do have these, and I have read some of this one and this one for sure. And then I need to read these other ones. Yeah. Which one of these do I do? What do I read in May? Pick one. Anyone. Well, don't pick Road Trip Rescue, because I already read it. Fine. I'll pull it out. There's only 3 now. Which one? Or should I put in Sanderson's? I don't know. No, let's do this. Which one of these 3 do I read in May? Meanwhile, see you Thursday.